Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to have a go at a cherry blossom tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some pinks from the palette. I'm going to need some browns for the trunk. The ones I'm using today are Opera Rose, Permanent Rose and Burnt Sienna. We're also going to need to get the colours ready, mixed up first. On today's programme I'm going to use a slightly different style of brush today. I've got a new brush, Terry Harrison Special Effects. So this is like a foliage brush. So I'd like to see what effects we can get with that. But you can use any type of stippling brush or a firm brush that's going to give you the cherry blossoms. So slightly different technique. So let's start. So the first thing I want to do is just make sure that the paint's mixed together properly. This is the Opera Rose, this is the Permanent Rose, just making sure that it hasn't settled. And then we're going to need the base later on for the trunk. Okay, so first thing to do is to get the brush and soak up the paint first of all. You need to make sure that you hold this brush at a slight angle and very gently do this dotting action. It takes a little bit of practice first of all, but let's just see how we get on. So what you want to do, here we go. So you don't want to put too much pressure on. You want to make sure that you're just lightly touching the paper. That's what I'm doing, just trying to form the shape of a tree. I'm leaving some gaps so that when we put the branches on later on we'll be able to see them through the design. So I'm holding it on its tiptoe as well as on its side. It's a quick way of getting foliage onto your watercolour paper rather than sitting there with a brush and putting some dots on. I'm starting off with a lighter colour first, and then we're going to put a little bit of shadow colour, but that's going to be the dark Permanent Rose. Okay, as we go down to the base I'm just going to taper it in a little bit. This is quite a nice one for you to practice. Just make sure that you have a shape in your mind before you do it. What we need to do is let this first layer dry, and it won't take very long because we've only put a light spotting of the paint. So what I'm going to do is just on the outside I'm just going to put some lighter touches on, because usually on a tree on the outside it's quite light, and this is just with whatever paint is left on my brush. A couple more bits here and we'll connect these later on. Right, so that's the first layer done. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the Permanent Rose, which is a slightly darker version. If you haven't got a darker version of the rose colour, just add more watercolour to it, make it a little bit more intense. So I'm just loading it up. I just need the tip of the brush this time, so I don't need to worry about loading the whole brush up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put some darker blossoms showing through on some of the clusters that we're going to create. The tree is usually quite dark at the base. Just need to add a little more colour there. I'm making the paint a little bit more intense. I'm going straight in to the undiluted version of the paint now, and then I'm just going to very lightly just dot around. Okay, so we need to let that dry. What we're going to do is then to put the trunk in. We may need to go back later to add a little bit more blossom on, but we'll check that once it's dry. So I'm just going to go onto my round brush, so I'm just making sure that the mixture hasn't all settled. Mix the brown through. Start off with the trunk. If you can put the trunk in quite centrally, just going to very gently map in the tree trunk. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to put some branches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to weave the branches in and out of our blossom that we've done. Make sure that the lines continue and the branches look like it's all part of a stem. I'm just using the point of the brush to get the fine lines in. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going back to the trunk of the tree and I'm just going to put a slightly darker area there. I'm just going to rinse out my brush, and then just so I don't get hard line, I'm just going to soften the edge. You need to do this quite swiftly so you don't get left with a hard line. I can drop some more colour in just as it's wet as well, just to give it a little bit of a dimension. Just do a few more tips on the branches. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just give it a couple of minutes to dry. Whilst it's drying, what I'm going to do is just put some grass on the bottom, so I just need to get some green mixed up ready. I'm using sap green. So what I'm going to do is get the foliage brush, and I'm just going to very gently hold it on its tiptoe and just paint a few grasses on. This will ground my tree, and it doesn't look like it's in mid-air. And what I can do is just get a slightly darker shade of green and put a few more blades of that in. Okay, so I just need to put a few more bits of cherry blossom on. We start on with the pink again. So this time I'm just going to go in with the darker one. Now I've got the branches in, I can see where I need to put a little bit more. So once we've done that, I'm just going to get a slightly darker brown, just to put a little bit more shadow on the trunk. So I'm just going to come in on the left, just paint a tiny bit more in, just to make it look a bit more 3D. Just darken a few bits more and on the branches. And that's our cherry blossom done. So we started off with the stippling brush. It's more of a foliage brush, anything you've got that's going to give you nice foliage. Started with the light colour, then we dotted it around, then we put a little bit more of the darker shade in, and then we started to put the trunk on and then the grass at the bottom. So that's the project finished. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Don't forget to like this design and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the YouTube videos that I start to create, and I'd like to thank you for watching. Bye for now.